This is going to be a commentary video on the Ravens' strategy of going wide receiver first at pick 22 in the 2023 NFL Draft. This isn't college where you can over-recruit. I kind of touched on this a little bit in another video, so I'll briefly explain it a little more. Very few people are aware of it, nor should most people be aware of it, to be honest with you. Schools like Georgia, Alabama, but across all sports, Division I, Division II, Division III, they over-recruit. I'll use an example. In the SEC, it's very common to recruit more good outside linebackers and DNs than you really need every year and kind of let it sort itself out in camp, in the offseason. See who works harder, see who's smarter, see who's got a better burst and has better technique. Look, there's 16,000, roughly, high school football teams in the United States. So like when Alabama or Georgia or Clemson or Ohio State, when they offer your stud D-end, you may not know that they've offered 7 other DNs and told them the same thing. Now, technology and the recruiting focus on social media now has given recruits and coaches more awareness. I'm talking about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20, 30 years ago when I was in high school. I know guys who were recruited and told, hey, you're going to come to Nebraska and you're going to start at D-end, and they get there and there's 6 other guys, 6'5", 255 pounds, that are freshman DNs, and they're like, what the heck happened? They told me I was the guy, and they transfer out. You can't really do that in the NFL, nor could you ever. The Ravens had to take a wide receiver or a corner at 22 unless they traded back. Why do I talk about over-recruiting? It was a difficult choice. Even though Zay Flowers is a hell of a football player, one of my favorite players, looking at the draft, they certainly had to think about corner. I suspect, and I said this in a reaction video, I think Friday night, that the Giants called to maybe move up. And then that's how they ended up trading with the Jaguars for whatever reason. It sounds like, from a Ravens perspective, nobody wanted to offer enough immediate value in return. So the Ravens had to make that choice: wide receiver or corner. It's not like college, or even high school where recruiting is huge, particularly private schools, and even prior to that, middle school travel football, where you can promise 5 outside linebackers or 3 running backs. Hey, you're going to start and you're going to play, and then you get them all on your team just to hoard the talent so everybody else doesn't get it. It doesn't work like that in the NFL. You got to make tough choices, and you only get a certain number of roster spots. They can't give Zay Flowers number 1 and a defensive player, Marlon Humphrey, on the other side number 1 like you see in college. There's only a certain number of spots, only a certain number of active players, whether you're at home or on the road. And in this case, the Ravens chose to go receiver. They drafted Zay Flowers, left Joey Porter Jr. on the board, and then also left, talking about the overall strategy, multiple talented corners on the board in the 3rd and the 4th round. When they drafted Trenton Simpson in the 3rd, and then Tavius Robinson, a 6'6" DN that really most of us have probably never heard of, in the 4th, I was stunned. I'm not going to lie, I was stunned. Each time I thought, all right, we're going corner here. We're going corner here. In our Discord and in our chat, the group that was pretty active during the draft, we were all stunned. But then it quickly dawned on us, I forget who mentioned it first, that the only thing that makes sense when you leave in the 3rd round guys like Jacorian Bennett, Keely Ringo, and Clark Phillips on the board in the 3rd. And then in the 4th, you leave Darius Rush, Eli Ricks on the board to take Robinson in the 4th. There's got to be a strategy behind it. There has to be. And the only thing that makes sense is that Lamar's cap hit in 2023 must be such that the front office thinks, or really knows, that a veteran cornerback is going to sign. It's the only thing that makes sense to me. Either Rock Ya-Sin or re-signing Marcus Peters. Those two are the 2 guys that I think have got to be in the discussion in our front office, and or one of them has already agreed to sign. I think it's possible that the Ravens have played these 2 guys off against each other, and that's why I bring up the over-recruiting in the beginning of the video. I don't think you can bring both of them in. It sounds great to say, well, Lamar's cap hit in 2023 is going to be $14, $16 million less than what it was projected to be on the tag. I have a friend of mine who's a cap person that studies all those things and suspects that is the number, meaning $14, $16 million less cap hit for Lamar in 2023. And he's like, well, I think we can sign both of those guys. I don't think so. I don't think Rock Ya-Sin and Marcus Peters are both signing here knowing that the other one signed. I think we're only getting one. I don't think you can over-recruit in the NFL. The Ravens finally took a corner in the 5th round, Kaya Blue Kelly. Hopefully I'm saying that name right. He's a really talented corner. with an NFL lineage. I mean, I don't know if you guys know, his dad is a Super Bowl champion, Brian Kelly, who was a cover 2 corner with the Tampa Bay Bucks in the early 2000s. It's a deep corner class, and I think Kelly will compete, to be honest with you, with Stevens and JAD for a roster spot. I do. He looks that talented to me. We're in the wait-and-see mode in terms of Ya-Sin or Peters. It's going to be soon because I think on May 1st is when there'll be a second set of free agency period where people are going to sign. The interesting thing for me is I've heard no news of visits by Marcus Peters to any other teams. Maybe I've just missed them. So if that's out there, feel free to put that in the comment section and let me know that I'm just misinformed or uninformed. And I know that there's going to be people who say the 2020 film didn't live up to the expectations for Marcus Peters that a lot of Ravens fans have. But here's the thing. Marcus Peters is a home run hitter as a corner. That sounds, nonsensical because he's a defensive player. We don't have the ball. How do you hit a home run when you don't have the ball? Well, you take it from the other team. And Marcus Peters is a savant at that. He did miss the entire 2021 season, and I think a lot of us, myself included, forgot that he will give up yards, particularly in the new scheme that Mike Macdonald used in 2022. Softer, some split field coverages, and I went on record as saying early in the season that it looked like to me Marcus Peters didn't like those coverages. He liked straight zone or straight man. Now, I'm not saying he can't read it during the middle of the play. That's not what I'm saying. Prior to last year, Wink Martindale's system, in my opinion, was a call it and run it system, meaning the coverage is called pre-snap based on down and distance personnel, and then you run it. 2019, 2020, Marcus Peters incredibly successful in that scheme. Prior to that in the NFL, I mean, he had 8 interceptions as a rookie. Like, come on. In my opinion, more of his drop-off in stats. So let's do it this way. 1 interception in 2022. Career low for him. 6 passes defensed. I mean, those two stand out. Just to go look at his career stats. They stand out by comparison to other seasons that he had with the Ravens, under Wink Martindale, with the Chiefs, or the Rams. I think more of it, to be honest with you, was due to the scheme changes, the read and react coverages that the Ravens used. It was just a drastic change. And now, as a side point, and this is a topic for another video, I think the offensive scheme change is going to be even more drastic than the shift from Wink Martindale to Mike Macdonald. That's a topic for another day, but I'm not the only person who thinks that. Some really, some Ravens content creators that I respect have reached out to me and we've communicated and think that Todd Monken's system is going to be drastically different. I suspect that it'll be even more different than shifting to Mike Macdonald's system from Wink Martindale. But I digress. Marcus Peters, in my opinion, is going to give up yards in any system, in any scheme, because he's a guy who looks at the formation, looks at the personnel, the situation, the split, everything, computes it in his head, and says, okay, I'm going to get this route 70% of the time. And sometimes he jumps it. Sometimes he's right and sometimes he's wrong. He's been right a lot. I think he's got 32 career interceptions. I believe I could be wrong. I think 6 defensive touchdowns in his career. He had 8 INTs as a rookie, like I mentioned. He's always been that guy. He also had a lot of passes defense. I think 29 as a rookie. Well, you can only get that if you're targeted a lot. Marlon Humphrey could not have had 30 or 29 passes defense in 2022 because he wasn't targeted that much. Don't listen to some of those rating services that tell you he was targeted a lot. He was not. People avoided Marlon Humphrey like the plague. My point is, Marcus Peters has always gave up yards, but he's always made big plays. We didn't get a ton of them in 2022. We only got 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumbles recovered, and I think 1 interception. I think if he's not re-signed, it's as much due to the nature of the coverages the Ravens play as it is to his injury or age. He's only 30 years old, and that that lost a step label that's been applied to him. Rock Ya-Sin seems to be more of a guy who hits singles and doubles, to use a baseball comparison again. A guy who plays the correct coverage, just like Marcus Peters does, but doesn't take as many chances as Marcus Peters does. Now, maybe in the Ravens system, with some of the ways the Ravens do things, perhaps Rock Ya-Sin would take more chances. I'd look at him as more of a reliable, consistent corner, maybe a little bit more physical than Marcus Peters, but look, Marcus Peters provides that edge that an NFL defense needs. Some of y'all probably tuned in thinking that this video was about Zay Flowers. It's not. I was stunned with the 3rd and 4th round picks. I was surprised, even though Trenton Simpson's a hell of a football player. I did a video last night. I'll link up in the top right for you to check out if you want on Trenton Simpson. It's no film associated with it, just like this one. It's all commentary and really just marveling at the ways that he was used at Clemson. I don't know that there was 5 or 10 football players in college football at any level like Trenton Simpson defensively who were asked to do all the things he was asked to do. I think for me, if I'm going to pick one guy, if I have my choice, I'll pick Marcus Peters because I know the edge that he brings. I know the fight that he has. And he'll stand up to anybody, and I said that in a video, including John Harbaugh, right? NFL defenses need that. College defenses need that. High school and youth defenses need that. You need Marcus Peters guys on your team. For me, though, as long as the Ravens sign either Rock Ya-Sin or Marcus Peters, I will be fine with that. I don't really see other high-level corners available, that are at that level of a Marcus Peters or a Rock Ya-Sin potentially. I'll be really pleased with this draft if we're able to get one of them. I don't think it's possible that the Ravens can over-recruit like in college and get both of them. I think that's a pipe dream. But, hey, I could be wrong. I think that's why they drafted Kelly as a guy who, could be a backup, potentially make the team. I think he's going to compete with JAD and Stevens. I think the Ravens have a lot of depth at DB, but clearly are lacking a left outside corner that is one of these two guys' levels. You guys let me know what you think of my thoughts here. What you think of the Ravens' strategy? They didn't take Joey Porter in the first. They passed on all those other guys at 86 to take Trenton Simpson. And then took a D-end in round 4 that really a lot of us had never heard of. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. Guy played in the SEC from Canada. Give him credit. He's a hell of a football player. At 6'6", almost 270 pounds. My point is they could have gone the other way. They could have gone corner at 22 and then tried to go receiver at 86. Well, some of the receivers that we wanted were already off the board, and some of the other ones that a lot of us thought were really good just didn't get drafted at all. A.T. Perry got drafted way later than I thought. We got Dante Demas as an undrafted free agent. Already signed Nelson Aguilar and Odell Beckham Jr. I think the receiver room has plenty of potential, plenty of guys there, so I respect what the Ravens did. Zay Flowers, one of my favorite players to watch. Wasn't sure what they were going to do here. I really thought my instinct was Joey Porter at 22 when the moment came for us to make the pick, and I was wrong. I thought we were going corner in the 3rd round and the 4th round. Wrong on both occasions. It looks like there's probably a low cap hit for Lamar and some kind of handshake deal with one of those two guys that I showed you coming up early this week or maybe midweek, depending on how things shake out. Let me know what you think of the Ravens strategy. Going receiver with Zay Flowers, locking in a really young, super talented guy for 4 or 5 years, and then bringing back in a veteran cornerback like Marcus Peters or Rock Ya-Sin to really solidify that defense. Both of those guys being left corners primarily in their career. Tough playmakers, really super smart, adaptable. In the case of Marcus Peters, a guy who I think a second year in Mike Macdonald's system would be pretty revealing. And from the limited film that I've seen, I think Mike Macdonald looks at Marcus Peters and has a lot of reverence. I saw him a couple of times post-game talk about or talk to and with Marcus Peters, and it looked like he really respected him a lot and felt like he was just lucky to have him on that roster. Appreciate you guys' time. If you enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comment section. Consider liking and subscribing if you haven't done already. And then if you think other people would enjoy this video, please consider grabbing the link to it, going out and sharing it on social media to help this video get more reach.